Greetings, free thinkers. Welcome to the Hoggcast. Before the video starts, I would just quickly ask you if you could hit the red subscribe button and the little bell next to it. Like the video, leave a comment underneath if you could, but definitely share the video because that helps me stay competitive with the big multinational corporations such as CNN and MSNBC that YouTube is unfortunately choosing to prioritize. Thank you for your time and enjoy this video.
Get the fuck out of here.
You are quiet. 1 minute. That's it, please.
Okay, greetings free thinkers, welcome to the Hoggcast. Now on this episode for you we have some more footage collated that demonstrates that the woke left are really, you know, like I once used to say that, and I still do say that once upon a time there were good people on the left and on the right, but they just had differing ideas about the countries they're in, how to lead them, but they both wanted the best for the country and the best for the people. Well, those days are over. Now we have good versus evil, or right versus wrong instead of right versus left. In that the woke left do not want the best for the country, they hate the country and they hate the people in it. And I'd like to say, if you've watched my videos a lot and what you're about to see in this video, and keep this in mind what I'm about to say, the woke left will often say X group is marginalised. They love the word marginalised, even though they're not marginalised. The amount that these countries, the effort they put into making these groups not feel marginalised, just pales in comparison. Now, you're going to see that in these videos, it is only ever the white conservatives who are marginalised. They're always outnumbered. You know this as well as I do. Think back to every clip you've seen. It's always one conservative being hounded by legions of leftists. So who's the marginalised ones here? So this is the first clip. This is one solitary white woman, young woman, trying to get to an Ann Coulter event. And she's being mobbed. This is in Portland. Apparently she's getting to a place called Wheeler Hall. I believe it's in Portland. Don't quote me on that. I've been told that it's in Portland. That's the footage that was sent to me. Now, you're going to see that all of the liberals, the peaceful, tolerant, woke liberals, have no problem telling her to, quote, go home. That's something they love to say. They love to tell people to get out and to go home and go away. These peaceful, tolerant leftists. Anyway, take a look. She's very brave to do that. These guys are not brave. They're only brave when they're in mobs of 100 harassing one conservative. And you often see this. And you know what? As much as I love and respect the Republicans and Donald Trump, they need to get the move on with... They need to hold the Democrats accountable for what they're doing, because the woke left have turned an entire generation's worth of young people, the future talent of the United States, and it's the same here in Britain and elsewhere in the Western Hemisphere. They've turned pretty much an entire generation, the youth, the flower of the youth, they've turned against their own country. They hate their own people. Look at them. All they can do is hate. This is the woke left. These are the people that often point the finger at us on the right and say, we're just spreading hate. But it's the same. It's always the same with the woke left. if you want to know what the woke left think, if you want to know what their plans are, just look at whatever it is they're accusing you of. Because with the woke left, they are whatever they accuse you of being. They are doing whatever they accuse you of doing. Remember that. Next, we are in the town with the infamous elk statue that was burnt down by protesters who are eagerly, or rioters I should say, who are eagerly burning down and destroying everything because they're peaceful, tolerant leftists, right? Now, this guy here apparently is a leftist, but he took exception at them burning down the elk, and this is how his comrade, remember what happened to Ted Wheeler when they all turned on him? This is what happens when you go, you could be the best friends with the woke left, okay, for 10 years. The second you have one independent thought, the second you disagree with the mob mentality once, even after 10 years of hollow nut friendship, the second you disagree with them just once, this happens.
Hey, get him out of here!
I understand that you might be trying to support this cause for you.
You're burning a spot I grew up loving to look at.
And that black person will ask you to leave. Please leave.
That's the, so I'm sure you heard that. She said that person of colour asked you to leave, so you have to leave. That is the world the woke left wants. A world where certain groups can dictate to other groups, and I'm sure you know, on the greasy totem pole of racial intersectionality, I'm sure you know where people like me fit and people like you fit, somewhere at the bottom. So you're going to see his response to this, because he is a woke leftist, he has supported them. However, they've just destroyed the statue of an elk. It has nothing to do with racism. They've just destroyed the statue of an elk that he has loved in his hometown all his life. Even though he's a woke leftist, he's supported their cause for years up until now. Now he has had one independent thought. Now he has said one thing after years of supporting their cause. He's disagreed with them once. His friends, his comrades, they like to call each other comrades. Now he's been told to get out. He's been told to get lost. He's been threatened. He's been told that quote, a black person has asked you to leave. So you must leave. You have to. Because that's the world they want. And look at his response.
Protest.
I love that elk, man. No, and it's gone.
And he's asking to leave.
It's not gone. It's
You're nobody to me, girl.
Yeah, I do.
You took the elk down to control the narrative. It's working. Look at yourself.
Just look. They're trying to stop him from moving, from going towards it. There's always 100 people on one, and you just heard someone there speaking about controlling the narrative.
Hey! You're gonna get hurt, motherfucker! Well, then I'll be the one that hurt it. I'm just moving. I'm not touching anybody.
Let him go home. Stop touching him.
Stop.
They were his former friends. They were his comrades. Look at the way they're treating him. He has had one independent thought. Just one. He didn't want the elk that he's loved, the statue of the elk, since he was a child. That has nothing to do with politics, but it's just a statue. And we know from the left they want to destroy statues. They want to pull things down because they're extremists. They're not tolerant, they're intolerant. They are everything they claim to oppose, and they support everything they claim to hate. It is the exact and literal opposite of what they claim. And here you can see he's been assaulted, he's been threatened. It's the same situation again and again and again with the left.
Touch him. Let him go home.
Let him go home. Let him go home. Oh, you're giving me a heart attack. Let him go home. Hey, stop him from leaving. Go home, sir. Yeah, how dare us fight for human rights, coward? Go home.
You're fighting for human rights. I'm not sure. I hope my camera picked it up. My excuse me, microphone picked it up. We'll replay it again. He said he's fighting for human rights, not the guy who's had the independent thought. The hateful mobs who have just threatened him, who've told him to get out, told him he's not welcome here, are holding him there against his will, trying to stop him from moving, just because they want a target. Even though he has been their friend for years, he's just had this one independent thought. That's it. He's out. He's done. He's done. He's had one thought that goes against. He's had one wrongthink thought. Now let's go back and listen. So remember, this is a statue of an elk. Got nothing to do with human rights, got nothing to do with anything. But they've seen a statue and they want to pull it down because they've seen their friends in other cities pulling statues down because they don't have independent thoughts, the left. So when they see other leftists pulling statues down, they go to the nearest statue they can find and pull it down. Or in this case, they burnt it down, a statue of an elk. Now this guy, one of the wrongthink people who's charged him with wrongthink, he says, and you're going to hear it, we're fighting for human rights. How is this fighting for human rights? Listen.
Fight for human rights, coward!
Go home, sir.
Yeah, how dare us fight for human rights, coward!
So they are saying to him, he said, they're saying to him, we're fighting for human rights, coward. Bearing in mind there's 100 of them and one of him, but he's the coward. These skinny leftists, horrible, hollow leftists, monsters. It's always 100 on 1, isn't it? Always 100 on 1. And he's apparently the coward.
Go home, sir.
We're trying to protect the freedoms that we used to have.
They're trying to protect the freedoms that we used to have by pulling statues down, for cancelling him. Remember what I said about they are everything they claim they're not. They oppose everything they claim to love, and they love everything they claim to oppose. They are inside out. It's like when you was a kid, did you ever see any of the other kids? They would have their jumper or the sweatshirt on back to front and inside out. These leftists are that shirt. And they're not the child, they're the sweatshirt. They are not the child wearing the sweatshirt. They are the sweatshirt itself. They are inside out and back to front. So these guys are trying to protect the freedoms I used to have by cancelling anyone who dares to have a single independent thought, by ganging up on people, and by knocking statues down, burning statues down. And apparently they're trying to protect freedoms. No. Listen guys, you are backwards and inside. You're back to front and inside out. Okay? You are not trying to protect freedoms. You're trying to take them away.
Bitch!
Someone stole the girl that
And that's the end of that clip. See, they're hassling him, they're following him all the way down. He was their friend. He was one of them. Until he had one independent thought. Just one. Next, we are in the city of Richmond, where a police chief is giving the details of an incident because, of course, leftist rioting has spread there with Antifa doing some unspeakable things. Oh, by the way, of course, this is the Antifa that Jerry Nadler, one of the most sleazebag, insidious Democrat politicians there is, said that Antifa doesn't exist. I know they exist. You know they exist. This police chief certainly knows they exist. I know they exist because Antifa in Greece have threatened me when I did my videos on Antifa being embedded with migrants and Islamic extremists on the Greek and Turkish border, because they were riling up the asylum seekers and getting them to attack and trying to even pull down the Greek border. I did a few videos on that. You can find them in my library. And the Greek Antifa threatened me. They said if I go there, bad things would happen to me. British Antifa smeared me in the most horrible way that a man can be smeared. So I see videos of Jerry Nadler saying Antifa don't exist, and I'm just like, this guy is partly responsible for decision making in the greatest country on earth the United States, and the guy doesn't even know that Antifa exists. Now, let's hear what the police chief has to say in regards to what Antifa have been doing in his city recently.
Building on Broad Street. This is not the only occupied building that has been set fire to over the last 2 days, but they prohibited us from getting on scene. We had to force our way to make a clear path for the fire department. Protesters intercepted that fire apparatus several blocks away with vehicles and blocked that fire department's access to the structure fire. Inside that home was a child. Officers were able to help those people out of the house. We were able to get the fire department there safely. Sorry.
Okay, so we've just seen that the police chief has become highly emotional because Antifa, the woke radical left, who you've seen in clip after clip of the way they've been behaving, they set fire to a house and then they blocked the fire trucks from getting there. There was a baby in the house. These are the so-called freedoms the man in the clip you saw before this one said to the guy who was guilty of wrongthink, quote, "We're just trying to protect the freedoms we used to have. The freedom to block the fire department from trying to put out a fire in a house where they need to rescue a baby. That's your choice in November, United States." I know that over half of my viewers are from the United States, and I love you all from across the pond. That is your choice in November. Do you want Donald Trump and this police chief? Or do you want Joe Biden and Antifa? I'm sure you know, I'm sure you can come to the sensible conclusion yourself. Anyways, thank you for watching this video, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.